All right. We're back with the new media show. Todd, welcome from, wherever you happen to be.
Yeah, I'm in the Philippines, and here we are. And I'm glad to be back. And it's been quite the tumultuous couple of weeks for me.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on, lots of changes for you and lots of things happening in the podcasting space. I know you went to the podcast show and
Yeah,
so I would love to hear more about that. Plus also we have some other drama that happened to you this past week too. You lost your studio in Michigan. So,
yeah. It
yeah.
just, I guess I'll talk about that first. I arrived back from London on Friday, and had a nice Saturday, Sunday, Memorial Day weekend planned, and one day back to work, and then Wednesday I'm going to fly out.
Yeah.
And I took Saturday off, and Sunday, about 10 o'clock at night. I don't know why. Maybe it was intuition. Who knows? I went and grabbed my laptop and had YouTube stuff playing. I'm going through my email, and I see this termination of lease email.
Well, they didn't give you much notice, did they?
Well, they gave me a month, but
Oh, they gave you a month. Right.
the problem is I was leaving on Wednesday, and I went into a
Oh.
dire pain. Now, I'd not been mailed a certified notice of eviction. Just an email, and really wasn't an eviction, it was just a termination of lease. And so I went into panic mode, and by about 1 o'clock in the morning, I had booked a U-Haul truck that I couldn't believe I was gonna be able to pick up on Memorial Day, and a storage unit, and had enlisted help. And by Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the new media production studios was no more. It was an empty shell, and half of it in storage, half of it in my loft in Michigan. So yeah, and literally when I go home, I'm gonna come home to just oh my god, an incredible mess. It won't be pretty.
So what are you planning on doing? I think you had mentioned that you're gonna try and rebuild your studio in your in the place where you live now. So, right.
Yeah, the challenge really is it's a loft. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna, have to figure out a cubby of some sort, and maybe build a false wall. And it's the ceilings are beautiful. It's nice, but it's really not.
Yeah.
It's not like a
It's not
room I
ideal.
could home.
Yeah.
And acoustics, I'm sure, is gonna be challenging. Who knows? And then the whole situation with bandwidth is still probably gonna be a problem. I think I can survive with the way the bandwidth is right now. So, yeah, when I get home, it's gonna be scramble to. But in hindsight, I guess that's the beauty of podcasting, right? I can go audio only for a period of time until I get the studio built, and or false wall built, or whatever I'm gonna do, and go
Yeah.
from there. So, but it just, it was like losing a child almost, or a dog. Probably not like losing a child, but it was just. I'm still kind of reeling from it, to be honest with you, because I'd put so much effort into that creative space. But
Yeah.
it's ironic, Rob, because don't build your castle on rented land.
I think I made a comment like that on Twitter. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the analogy that's right here?
Yeah,
Right.
and
But that
then totally
I mean, yeah, how long were you in that location? I
5
think it was
years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah,
I was just
5
curious how
years.
long you were
So,
there. But you invested a
y
lot.
y and normally when you move, you have enough time to think, right? And how you're gonna
Right.
pack stuff. This was just who knows? I may have packed up garbage. I have no clue.
You had to throw it together so fast.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so when I get home, it's like, and I filled a 12 by 20 storage unit, filled it to the rim. And
Mhm.
then, I've got monitors, computers, just stuff strewn on the floor in the
Yeah.
loft.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so it just was depressing. But yeah, Wednesday got on an airplane, and so I'm going to be here for a while. Part of it is some business that I'm doing and some other things
Mhm.
too. So
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, I was hoping that we could talk about some of the latest kind of, news in the podcast space like we always do, but,
yeah,
a few of
you want
them,
to
I
hear?
mean, 'cause we've been both kind of off for a while, so it's
Yeah,
just a matter of kind of, like, talking about the rumors that are flying around about some big podcast hosts being sold here, has
well,
been on everybody's mind here. Everybody's trading messages because they're trying to figure this puzzle out. And
I
it's
had
interesting,
heard
right?
I had heard a rumor at the podcast show that the reason Libsyn wasn't there was something was potentially in the works. I had heard a rumor. Now,
Yeah.
is it them? Is it, who do you think it is?
Well, I mean, I guess it's an interesting exercise really to think about, who out there in the given situation in the podcasting medium right now, who's kind of like the best bedfellow to to point to, right? Who benefits from acquiring a podcast host and who has the money to do it? Is really kind of a secondary question to this,
The
but
money is probably the bigger,
yeah,
you
right.
know,
Right,
who
but it's
has the
also
money?
kind of business compatibility, maybe the focus of a particular platform and well, so Anu posted in the comments area that it's Buzzsprout, but Buzzsprout has come out publicly and said it isn't them. So,
Oh,
and I have heard some comments. I don't know if it was just denial, but I have heard some um, comments that Libsyn isn't it either. So
oh,
I don't know, if I mean we'll know when we know. I mean, I think James Cridlin posted in the newsletter this morning that we should know by next week. So my guess is it's probably ACAST is the one that's on the auction block right now. I think
yeah,
that's
they
my
have the biggest
guess.
they could be. They got the biggest global reach.
Right, that and there's a couple big players in the medium that could benefit from an ACAST, and that those 2 players would be Spotify
I don't
and
think
Amazon.
Spotify's gonna be buying any more. Blueberry is leading podcasting 2.0.
Mhm, mhm.
We've got the most implementations of any podcast host.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not us.
Yeah, so, it looks like Anu wants us to spill the beans on this, but honestly, Anu, I don't think any of us have the answer to this. It's kind of a puzzle, that's going on, and
Yeah,
it's an interesting one because it causes all of us to think about, who's the best match for who in the whole industry. So,
yeah.
it got me thinking about, well, who's the best match,
But see, who
for
who is
Libsyn? Who's the best match for Podbean? Who's the best match for even Blueberry, for that matter?
well, the people that are calling us,
Yeah.
and again, we get inquiries all the time, is, late capital investment firms. Folks that are rolling
Yeah.
up companies to do deals. So, those are the, people that are institutional, they've got big pots of money, and they just buy companies.
Yeah.
Um, who did Amazon has bought some stuff already. Who did they buy?
Amazon bought, as far as a hosting company, they bought Art19. Um,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say that
So,
Art19 has a big global presence.
no.
Um, so they're still a fairly small hosting platform that Amazon owns, and it's a good platform for their purposes, but maybe it doesn't expand their global reach quite as much as like an Acast might.
I'll still put my money either on Libsyn or ACAST,
Yo, I
given
mean, my gut tells me it's probably not Libsyn, though Libsyn is positioned to sell. They've been positioned to sell for probably a year now at
well,
least, right?
I made a comment to a certain individual, "Why aren't you guys" well, I asked Rob, "Why aren't you
Yeah.
guys here in London?" And it was crickets. So, that to me was like, "Hmm, Rob would normally tell me why
Well,
they're
keep in
not, and
mind,
what.
Todd, that they own a podcast hosting platform in Germany. Um,
Well,
so
then, so
so were
maybe
they
they
there
are.
is the question,
Yeah, so
right?
maybe they're the ones. Um,
Yeah. So I don't know, there's a lot of talk going on
yeah,
in the space right now, and it's hard to know how it's gonna play out,
and I
but I
don't
think it
even
will be
know,
a sign going forward.
and I don't even
Um
remember where I heard the potential Libsyn thing. It was just something, maybe I said something to somebody and, um, someone said, "Oh, they're not here because." I don't know. Again, it was just kind of this passing thing. It wasn't like it was this, "Guess what? Guess what I heard?" It wasn't like one of those, you know? But there was Libsyn had a team member at, the podcast show, but I'd only seen him once, I think. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I think I
I
saw that
don't know.
too. I think it was mainly a representation from the kind of the advertised cast or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Libsyn
yeah, yeah.
Ads team that was there.
But, that being said, the podcast show for us, there was just from a creator standpoint, winner chicken dinner. We talked to a lot of creators, a lot. Um,
Mhm.
Probably so much so that I immediately committed for next year and
I
asked
mean,
for
I think
different
it's a
people.
great show. I think it's a great show. I would have loved to have gone to it. Yeah,
The
new, posted another comment here, says, what about Agami buying Patio?" I don't know, I think Agami might be interested in, like, one of the larger hosting platforms if they were gonna do something, but I don't know, that doesn't feel like a as
Yeah,
good of
that's
a
not
fit.
to me, a
Yeah.
patio buy is, kind of a not almost they're just not big enough, I don't think, for, they're big in the Middle East.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay, well,
yeah.
Rick has a comment here too, it says, Rick, asks, "After the stock debacle of a couple of years ago with Libsyn, I think someone should, buy Libsyn," right? Yeah, I mean, I think
And
that there's some benefit in, like, maybe a larger company buying them, but,
I you know,
um
I had heard that some developers got let go over there. Matter of fact,
mhm.
a lot of developers got let
Well,
go.
and also, I mean, if you look at over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of program managers that have kinda come and gone through that
So
company as well.
so could had why do you all of a sudden start letting go developers? Either there's, 1, money issues, which there shouldn't be at Libsyn.
Well,
N Number 2, are you trying to make your books look better?
that's yeah. I think a lot of companies are doing that right now, though. They're trimming
Yeah,
staff, they're getting lean because I think that
but,
there's a
Libsyn
possible
can't afford
expectation
to
of a further economic decline.
Libsyn can't
So,
afford to let people go right now with the way they're interfacing, their back end is,
yeah, they
you
never
know
really finished Libsyn 5, and,
yeah, and that
they
was
haven't
the
really done everything with Libsyn Pro either. So,
this is why, be honest with you, they're losing business because of that. We basically talked to a whole bunch of Libsyn
right.
folks at the podcast show, and, um, they were, basically disgruntled.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So it's interesting. I was thinking that maybe more of this would happen before now. The This is probably a good time for bigger companies to snap up smaller ones because of the value equation might be a little
it
bit
it
more
has
attractive.
it has to be someone with a lot of cash on hand
Yeah, right. Yeah,
the because the investment market right now is not good, you know?
right.
I'm surprised there's been any, and maybe that's why there hasn't been an announcement yet. Maybe something is not closing. Money's tight with interest rates the way they are, so someone's coming in and buying something. Um,
I mean, I have to say that I did think about, Apple in this context. I tried to play out
App
some kind of a scenario
Oh,
with them
oh, oh, that would be
because
interesting.
they're really the only major player that doesn't have a hosting platform. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, if Apple hasn't built an Android app yet, I don't know that they're gonna go there.
You know,
So right?
and I'm not gonna say, what my discussion was, but I did get a chance to talk to the Apple team at the podcast or several people, at the podcast show. They were there,
Mhm.
even though it was a bit incognito per se, they were at the event.
Yeah. Well, they usually do that. It's just that
Yeah,
they can't exhibit and do anything like that, which they've never exhibited at a podcasting event in the whole
right.
lifespan of their involvement in podcasting.
But I
Yeah.
was asking pretty specific questions about I guess I can say this, I was asked very specific questions about what do you want from us? What do you want
Oh,
next?
Apple.
What do you
Apple.
yeah, what do you think we should do? And, and I went through my top, 3, 4 things. So,
Do you want, me to share my thoughts on a good combo for blueberry?
mm,
I would think that you would probably approve of that, of my, my thinking on it.
who do you think is a
Can you
combo
think
for
of who I might be thinking of?
I'm not going to review I'm not gonna say anything on because you don't know who I'm
I know.
talking to and what I'm doing, so
I know, exactly.
who do you think the combo would be good?
Well, let me just set it up a little bit. I think that, Automatic, the maker of WordPress,
Yeah,
recently acquired, Pocket Cast,
right. But,
right?
okay, so let me put this to bed. WordPress already has a stake in another podcasting plugin
Oh, no kidding.
and have had for a long time, a small stake.
Mm, okay. So is that public information?
I think so, but it's been 3, 4, maybe 5 years.
Yeah, but there isn't really any plugin that has any significance that's
There's a couple that
that's
have
that
a little
that's
bit,
really
yeah.
competitive to you though, I would imagine.
We're double market share of any other plugin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
But yeah,
So,
WordPress, if you wanna give me a call, hey, we'll take that conversation.
well well, it would be a
And I like
Matt,
Matt. Yeah.
Matt, reach out to Todd and see what you can strike, because I think that's the best, that's the strongest tie-in that you have for your
Oh, yeah,
platform,
yeah, yeah.
right?
But, it's interesting because since Podcasting 2.0 and everything that we've been doing and beefing up our dashboard, our dashboard spread is getting a little wider. It used to be like 80/20. Now we're probably 70/30, 70% PowerPress users, 30% dashboard users. So,
Mhm.
that, but again, the Podcasting 2.0 stuff is, Podcasting 2.0 stuff, some of that is in Crossroads right now in a couple of the functions,
Yeah.
specifically the the streaming sats and some of that stuff. And by the way, we are lit and live video today. I
Oh,
was having
terrific.
trouble. Yeah, I was having trouble with the audio streamer. So,
Okay. It's better to get the video anyway, right?
yeah.
So so I had lunch today with Stephen Goldstein, so it was
Oh,
an interesting conversation with him. I'm not gonna disclose anything, but just to say, he's still, working hard in the podcasting space and doing events, and I guess he was up doing a panel up at the Radio Days Europe event, or not Europe, but the Radio Days America event up in Toronto just a day or so ago, and he said that there was only like 100 people there or something like that. So it was a
mm.
pretty small
Oh, that's
event.
bad.
Yeah. So, which, I've done that event in the past, but he's really bullish about video in the podcasting space too, and he's also bullish about audio too. So I think it's not one or the other. I think, as he's looking at it too, and he's he's going down to the Talkers conference on Friday, which is down at the Hofstra University, and I was down in Long Island. I was thinking about going down to it, but, you know, I've changed my mind. So,
The
yeah,
video was not even there wasn't
what
much of a whisper about people talking about doing much video in
at
on
the podcast show?
no, no. A lot of people are saying exactly what I've been saying is that very few are finding success. Uh, but then again, my session that I did, and I talked again about, Apple having video podcasting support.
Right.
That was brought by, 20 jaws dropped open because they didn't realize that
Yeah,
that
yeah, and I think
Apple
that's a very
supported video natively.
it's a very interesting aspect of what's happening on that is, when Apple decides to depreciate a feature that's in there, especially
Mhm.
around content, it
But
has an
just
impact.
but just remember, um, video was supported largely when iTunes was still the primary
Mhm.
platform. When Apple Podcasts, the app came out, video was really never supported much in the Apple Podcast app. There wasn't a video
Well, it's
section.
yeah, exactly. They used to have a throttle back and forth where you can click see all the podcasts video, see all the podcast audio. It was at the top of the app interface.
In Apple
And,
Podcast?
well, that's a good point,
It
Todd.
was
I'm not
it was in
sure.
it was I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it
not
was
sure it
still
was ever in the Apple Podcasts app,
yeah,
right.
it was
I
still a iTunes thing.
right, right.
Yeah, and
And
now that
it
we've
it
completely
didn't make
dis
the jump. Right,
yeah, didn't make the jump. So
right.
and
So
that's
that
one thing I talked to the Apple Podcast folks about that. I said, "Hey, listen,
oh, you
maybe
did, good.
may maybe you should, think about having ways to, publicly show that you support video so that."
Well, that might be good kind of public visibility for them to showcase that, at this
But
point.
again, you ask something and, the development is, a year down the road or whatever, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, so many people that didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, a
yeah,
lot of
I mean,
people don't
just
know
shock.
that they support PDFs too.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's people are, breaking down the doors to publish PDFs with their podcast, but it's certainly something in the earlier days of this medium. It's something that people did in like a companion information to their episodes. It
I
it
think
was not uncommon.
but again, I think a lot of people lose sight that,
Yeah.
a podcast could be, an audiobook with chapters. Uh,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
it could be a single episode that would be a documentary video. All of
Yeah.
those could be, sold on Apple Premium.
Yep.
Um, there could be, if you think about the media types, and again, this is, people have been so focused on just uh, spoken word audio that they
Yeah.
forget that this openness of this medium continues to allow you to do other cool things. You look at what Evo Terra did in those early years,
Mhm. Mhm.
with audiobooks, and that kind of just went by the side. Um, what that work that Eva did was groundbreaking at the time,
Yeah.
and
W Well, Todd, I think it's a case for looking at the medium as kinda like a more of a bucket term. I think lots of people want to put podcasting into a narrow definition, right? And that's where we're running into friction here is that podcasting can include a lot of different types of media types.
yeah.
The distinction that we're drawing on is whether it's RSS or not. And
Well,
and
again with
that's
the
That's
with
the controversy right now
the
is something
bastardized
that's
stuff.
available in YouTube, a podcast, because it isn't
Yeah,
via RSS.
again, let's quit calling YouTube podcast. What YouTube has created is a bastardized system. YouTube is YouTube. You have a YouTube channel. You have
Yeah,
YouTube content.
I don't really
So
disagree with that characterization because, I mean, I use YouTube a lot. We're on YouTube right now,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I've learned how to use it, and I have a pretty good understanding of how it works now.
yeah,
And it is really, most of what gets published in that platform is not via RSS and only video. I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
if you think about that media or that platform, everything is about video. So why do you think that publishing audio up there is gonna work? So it just
Oh, it doesn't.
it defies, logic, right, to
Yeah,
think
it
that it's
doesn't.
gonna work.
It
Right,
doesn't work. Yeah. If
right.
you're just publishing your audio podcast to YouTube, that's if you
Yeah,
get 10, 15 views, great.
yeah. So I wanted to kind of move on a little bit and talk about the Podnews Exclusive that came out, about Spotify's Megaphone is recertifying, Todd, but the rest of Spotify doesn't appear to be in the
No,
IAB.
I think Megaphone has to.
I agree with that, and I made a public comment saying that that's probably a smart move on their part. I was a little shocked that they made that move, or were contemplating making that move of abandoning IAB across all their platforms. I think it was probably a mistake, that they did that.
They're a
Um,
podcast first platform.
well, and this
It
is Megaphone is a professional publishing platform, and most of the shows that go with Megaphone are looking to monetize. So makes sense. Spotify for podcasters, there's a lot of people in there that don't really
it was
care about advertising that
it was
much.
definitely a huge conversation point with podcasters that, who are you with?
Right.
And we got a lot of migrators out of the podcast show, a lot. There's a lot of people that are, looking at these things and, making, hosting decisions upon, these bigger topics.
Right.
We're gonna, we basically are gonna be doing the V2.2 recertification. Uh,
Yeah, that's what, Megaphone is working on right now, is getting to, I guess that's the latest update, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and the requirement that IAB put down to us was that we have to recertify annually. There is not
Mhm.
doesn't matter if there's a version of the spec.
Right.
We have to come back annually and write
Yeah.
that check.
Yeah, Sue Ann writes, YouTube Music, I think, lets you toggle between audio and video preferences. Um, they may do that, but just know that there is no straight audio in YouTube. Everything has been converted into a video. So
Yeah.
it all gets back to how it's presented. And YouTube has also announced that they're going to take, just to let everybody know, I'm not sure how they're going to do this, but they've already announced that they're going to take the audio and they're going to apply AI to create a more kind of, motion video type of a concept around that
I hope
audio
that's opt-in. I hope that's not just you get
forced
that
on
by
everybody.
default.
Well, and they also are planning on, transcribing and, doing different versions of the audio, in different languages too. So, that may be a good thing, but they're also going to take video and they're going to translate it into all the world's languages as well and apply AI to change your mouth movements
They
to,
better they better not without permission.
well, yeah. And that also dovetails to what was announced earlier from Riverside, which is this video dub capability, and I'm kinda jumping ahead a little bit, but that is very similar to what YouTube is proposing to do, is to be able to change, take your clone voice and then have that audio play back in like a 150 different languages, and to be able to modify the video to make it look like they're actually
Yeah.
talking in those languages.
Speaking of a company where people are leaving, because, everyone I'm talking to is looking for new solutions with them.
Oh, okay. Right.
And that
Yeah,
was
I
that
mean,
was that was another conversation,
yeah, it's a tough one with them. I mean, I know lots of people that, have said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna keep using Riverside because it's not stable," or something. I mean, I'm not
Well,
always sure
it's a
exactly what the problem is.
variety it's a
Right.
variety of reasons, and I hear a lot of people saying that they're doing the Descript Squadcast route.
Right.
Um, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's and of course, there's all kinds of change even with StreamYard. Look at there lots of changes over there under new ownership.
Yeah. So I did, pull up a video. Now the Riverside folks put out a, demo of this platform, and I do have it where I could play it for us if we wanna see it, Todd. I don't know if you want me to play it or not, but,
Yeah, if you want to,
um
you can.
okay, let me, pull it up here and see if we can see it here. Okay,
Just
so
don't
let
get us
me
a copyright strike.
I hope not. So, yeah, I don't think there's any music in this thing, so
Maybe you had a slip up in the recording, or you have some outdated information that needs to be changed, like a statistic or URL. Well, you can correct it right in the Riverside editor. We are
Video's not moving
33
on our side.
five-star reviews away from 200. Just
yeah.
select a word here in the transcript and click VideoDub. Correct the text and then click Generate. Then VideoDub will actually create new audio in your voice using AI and dub your lips to sync to that audio. We are 29 five-star reviews away from 200. We're confident that VideoDub will give your creation process a massive boost and a new way
Okay.
to integrate AI in your workflow. If you want to be
Well,
the
then
first to access these features, go to riverside.fm and sign up.
what
Alright.
they need to do is they need to now disclose that they have altered that. You have to do that on YouTube too. If you make a altered video, you have to disclose that now. You have to have complete disclosure that you have used AI to regenerate,
Yeah.
and someone now can take, this is dangerous territory here.
Yeah, and that's kinda similar to what the YouTube folks were talking about in the announcement that I saw was doing similar, not necessarily changing the content like this one is. This one's giving you it's kind of a similar capability as Descript has to be able to edit video, via a transcript, right? So you
Yeah.
can get in and change the text in there as long as there's a voice clone in there, recording of yourself, it could create new audio,
But
that syncs
again,
up
you
to
you
your
physically
video.
change the video. Yeah, but again, you physically changed the video with AI. You have to disclose that this video has been altered with AI.
Yes,
So,
yeah. I wonder if that's somehow being enforced or not, or is it just, people do it just because it's a moral thing to do.
well,
Uh,
I guess I gotta go back and look at my YouTube interface because they made that requirement,
yeah,
some
right,
time ago. So,
right, or is that, more focused on creating entire, y video content, right? Not
well,
kind of
I think if you
edited.
edit it, okay, so what do you do if you're taking a politician's words and you redub what the politician has said? Um, I think, anytime you edit something, I think there's huge ramifications there. Okay, it's cool, whatever, but again, disclose that this video has been edited with artificial intelligence, and a portion of the video clip has been modified to use different words or whatever you're going to have to do.
Well, I think that there's a line there of differentiation. I think that the Descript tool works, and I know that there's other tools that do this as well, but you can remove things from the video but this ability to add AI generated content to the video is that may be where the line gets
Maybe
crossed, right?
we need to approach this in the podcasting 2.0 stuff so that there's a tag that is set for, because there's nothing in podcasting supporting this right now, except
Mhm.
if you put something in your show notes. Maybe there needs to be a tag added that is, um, AI modified audio or something. AI modified audio. So that way those Descript users that are modifying audio with AI can disclose it. I think it's critical that we start doing this, because
Yeah, I think
transparency podcasting has always been about me saying words to an audience. And as soon as I
right.
change the words, even if I edit the words in post,
Mhm.
but what is the difference then? I could take in an audio clip in post if I record without being live and re-record a segment and replace that. That is pure editing not done with AI.
Mhm.
So that's to me would be a I wouldn't have to disclose that I edited it using my own voice. But if you edit with AI,
Okay,
then I think you have to disclose.
but when you say edit, there's kinda 2 kind of ends to that. There's the editing for removal, and then there's editing for adding.
Or
And do you think
editing for
there's a
changing.
yeah, but changing can be like, like what we do when we edit the audio and we pull out ums and ahs or something like that from
Right,
our
that's
post-production.
fine. That's
Right.
fine, but if you change the context of your sentence with AI,
Mhm.
again, where does one word qualify? Does 2 words? Does a sentence? At what level do we need to make that disclosure?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know.
Yeah, so Sue Ann says, "I don't think that's the rule's intent."
Well, it's not
So
clear.
right, right. And Sue Ann also says that, "I guarantee Descript users are not checking the AI use box." So I do think we're in this,
We're
era
in a gray
where
area.
people are using these tools, but they're really not disclosing it because I think that there will be probably, and this gets back to something I heard, said. I'm trying to remember where I heard it, but, talking about as you look like 5 to 10 years into the future, that the content that's created, wholly by humans, right? Just like we are right now,
Mhm.
will be probably behind a subscription or a paywall or premium content, and AI will be generating most of the free content.
God help
Uh,
us.
and that's how this whole scenario might play out.
And again, I think there's an advantage here. It's a marketing advantage. You market your show as being, a true voice.
Right,
This is a non-AI generated show. And there's
right.
a difference between an AI generated piece of content and an AI edited. So maybe there needs to be a distinction that a that a audio file has been used or a video file has been altered with AI tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now again, and I have a friend who paid very, I don't know, the top end tier of a service that does, converts his voice to French and German,
Mhm.
and he sent me over samples of content that was recorded in English and then was recorded in Spanish and recorded in that content is fantastic. And he's basically going to say, "Hey, I'm going to set up 6 different channels with my content in these 6 different languages, and I will disclose that the I don't speak Spanish natively, and this has been done by an AI. So I think as long as you disclose, I think you're good.
Yeah, and but that is gonna draw kind of a line in the sand, right? Between those that are using AI and those that are doing it without AI, right? I mean, over time, there's gonna be a divide that happens because of this.
Yeah.
Um, and it's gonna be interesting to see how that who succeeds more? Is it the AI generated stuff or is it the human generated stuff? And that's where this the speculation around, human generated stuff become more premium because you're actually supporting humans to do this, right? And everybody, if you're human, you want to create content and you want increasingly people want to make money, right? I mean, that's like the
Yeah.
second question that people ask
Sure.
us, right? About any kind of content creation, whether it be YouTube or podcasting, is how do I make money from this? But if you're generating it via AI, that's not human generated, so maybe there's less of an
Well,
expectation of monetization
there's
over there.
also copyright considerations.
Well, that's certainly true too,
You
sure.
you cannot copyright anything
Right.
that's been generated with AI, at least in the
Well,
United
because who
States.
owns the copyright? That's the other question too, right? If AI
Huh?
generates it, does the human that typed the query, or the prompt, get automatic copyright on that content that's created by OpenAI or
Well,
ChatGPT, or
well,
who owns that copyright?
the in the way the law is written right now in the
Mhm.
United States, if you generate your show notes, technically, you don't own the copyright on your show notes, even if it was
Unless you
generated.
edit them, hand
Okay,
edit them
well,
yourself
you
as
you
well,
know, you
right?
have okay, and then this is another gray area. To what extent do you have to edit
Right.
them?
Is it 10%? Is it 15%? Is it,
Right. Is it spell
where's
checking?
that
Is it,
line? Right,
where's the and there's nothing on the books currently that
right.
even defines this. So,
Yeah, right.
and I feel comfortable taking my audio, my transcript, and
Mhm,
subjecting it to AI to create show notes. I feel comfortable doing that because I'm using my context of data to create a summary of my spoken word. I feel
mhm.
pretty good protecting that. Whereas as a company, we're not using AI to generate whole articles. We generate ideas for articles and then manually write the articles from
Right.
the ideas in order to maintain copyright control.
Well, that and also I think that AI doesn't generate the proper context sometimes in what it generates, that is
That's true.
deeply
It's not perfect.
knowledgeable about, if you're doing it about podcasting, that's deeply knowledgeable about the intricacies of the details of the medium. It's really not that intelligent about it. I don't know that that could change in the future, but you know, um,
I
Rick,
agree. You go ahead
yeah,
and read what Rick has to say here.
yeah, Rick says here, using AI to repair bad audio is one thing. Using it to change the context or intent of something is something else entirely. So that gets back to, changing the content, not so much editing it, but in some ways that's changing it too. But I think what you're talking about is creating new content, but using AI, that is different than the original. Now, editing it has been happening for a long time,
Yeah.
um, and the script does a pretty good job of pulling out the ums and the ahs and the repeated words
Well,
and those kind of
it
things. And but that's not
it's
really AI generated content. So,
I can hear a descript edited, uh, podcast. It's easy.
but you can
It's just
also see it in the video too, because
I
they,
y
your head is like jumping around.
yeah. So, yeah, it's very, very easy to hear a descript edited audio file. It's very unnatural.
Yeah, right.
Sounds
Totally.
compressed. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother issue with it too, because the script has the ability of changing the audio too and making it studio quality, right? So it'll run a filter against your audio as well and make
Wow.
it sound like you're in a in a professional studio, even though maybe it wasn't recorded there.
Again, I don't, that's all subjective.
It
And
is.
I'm not saying I've got an ear, but it's just like the Dolby product. When Dolby came around and said, "Oh, let's run your audio podcast through this Dolby, makes this Dolby thing." And I sent them samples of stuff that was already mastered on our end. And then I
Mhm.
said, and I couldn't hear the difference. I could not hear the difference in the audio. And again, I'm not an audiophile. I'm not one of those people that has an $8,000 tube amplifier, in some liquid bath that is, making sure that there's no hum and distortion and blah, blah, blah in the audio. And, I'm listening. I have relatively expensive, about $350 in-ear earbuds. So you
Yes,
would
you can
think,
hear all those details.
you would
If you
think,
Yeah, yeah.
but
We're
again, I don't edit. So,
Well, and also most people don't listen in expensive headphones. They listen in the Apple ear kinda wired or wireless earphones, and those are notoriously, not very good audio usually.
it's funny too because people always tell me, "Oh, you have to edit with speakers." I'm like, "I don't edit at all." And the speakers I have are, like $99, I guess they're like Bose, those little Bose speakers that are on the desktop. That's my extent of
Actually, those
speak.
those actually sound pretty good. I have a Bose speaker on my desk here that I play audio through it too, and
Yeah,
it's got
but I
a
don't.
it's like a 4 or $500 speaker. I mean, it's not cheap, so
But again, I don't edit. So,
right. Well, I just like to play all sorts of stuff in there, so I don't
well,
have to wear
I don't
headphones
have
all
any
the time.
speakers now. My speakers are all in a box somewhere in a storage bin.
Oh,
So
so
I'm listening on the computer audio now.
so to change topics again here a little bit is I saw in, that, Sounds Profitable is gonna be with Tom Webster is gonna be putting on a, new webinar coming up here June 12th, and I thought it was a very interesting webinar because we have talked about this topic on this show a few times, and it's about the advertising, um, load that's in podcasting, and he's going to share, this concept of, let's say, how many ads are too many ads in a podcast, or how often do listeners skip ads? So
Oh, man.
those are the key questions, right? My question is about the difference between programmatic and host read, what those differences are. I don't know if he's going to dive into that distinction, but I think that's an interesting one. But he's going to try and cover this topic, and I think that there has been some evidence in the prior research that those that are running a lot of ads in their shows are starting to, trigger listeners to say, maybe we're, maybe a little too much.
I,
Um,
on my trip over, my 30 hours, of
mhm.
course, I spent quite a bit of it sleeping because I was a beat dog after having
Right.
spent
Oh,
48 hours moving my studio. But
yeah.
I unsubscribed to some podcasts that I'd been testing just because the head load, I'm just like,
Oh,
every
the ad load on them. The ad load. Right.
13 minutes, I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You just quit,"
Yeah.
and then they go on for 2 minutes. Soulless, absolutely soulless ads. Soulless.
So were
And
they host reads or were they programmatic kind of
they were
radio ad type?
shitty host reads. They were horrible.
Oh, they were bad host reads.
Just
Okay.
like, "Oh, and by the way, and use a promo code blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Who?"
Yeah. It's like skip.
And just and I'm,
Right.
I'm looking for my phone to mash the 30-second button, 3, 4 times because it's
Yeah.
not just 1 or 2, it's multiples. And
Well,
again,
it's
another
like
10.
multiple pre-rolls, probably, at least
Yeah.
4 to 6, mid-rolls. I mean, if you probably 2 pre-rolls, 4 to 6 mid-rolls, and they throw on the end a couple of ads in the post-roll position, which, don't really do anything, don't move the needle
And and
at all.
and that was a conversation I was having with
Yeah,
podcasters too at the event at the
yeah,
podcast show. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're running with such and such company, and we've got 6 ads." I'm like, "How long is your show?" And
15 minutes.
they're like, "Oh, 30 minutes." I'm like, "Have you talked to
Right.
have you watched what happens with your listeners? And are they leaving?" "Well, we don't know." I'm like, "Well, you should be at Blueberry using our retention data to see how long people are leaving." "Oh, you have that?" You
Yeah.
know,
Well, you should be
um,
able to see it on your Apple chart and your Apple account, probably where people are dropping off, right? And if
well,
it's
no one's using Apple according you know, to all the sources out there.
right, it's all
You know,
Spotify
A
now, all
Apple's a
day.
dead Apple's a dead product, don't you know?
That is the impression that's being given out there, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
Well, I think that the way to really summarize that situation is that Spotify probably has more users that consume a less, amount of podcasts than Apple probably has fewer users, but they consume a whole lot more content. I think
There's more
that's
of a
the difference.
definition. Spotify has listeners that listen to a certain type of content.
Well, that's true too, probably, yeah. Yeah, but I've gotten definitely the distinct impression that, that the research that I've seen is always pointing to Spotify having more podcast listeners, like individual
Globally,
users,
outside the
right,
United States,
globally
definitely, yeah.
globally, but the typical consumption of individual Spotify users is like a half or a third of the amount of episodes consumed, than Apple. So if you're an Apple user, you're probably consuming twice as many episodes of podcasts. Yeah.
The data that James presented, at the podcast show on Spotify,
Mhm.
was not surprising to me whatsoever. I got to see the data the day before. James I was basically in the lobby hanging out in the hotel, and, James showed me was working on his keynote, and,
That
and
was
it didn't
about
surprise me based upon again, it goes back to why is Spotify dominant in this market here and where I'm at right now? It's because they're paying for bandwidth, and people can stream music and audio on those
that's a
without
key
having to
point right
pay
there.
for data.
Yeah, I think that's a key
And
point right there. Apple's not I don't believe Apple's doing that outside of the
no,
US
no.
or
And
doing it
Facebook
anywhere actually.
anywhere, and Facebook's doing the same thing,
Mhm.
and they'll run a promotion, and for the next 90 days, if you sign up for such and such, and people change cell phone numbers here like they change underwear. So it's not, and they just, they pay a buck for a new SIM card, and they're on a new carrier because no one is tied to a data plan.
Right. That they pay for
You got
every month, and it's got,
right.
like, unlimited data or some large amount of data that they can use every
Yeah,
month. Yeah, right. It's a different model. Until that changes, the consumption patterns are gonna be quite different.
yeah. And
Um,
people communicate on Facebook Messenger, and, that's their main messaging app. WhatsApp is big here too. Line is big, but it's just a different mentality once you leave the United States or Canada or,
right,
um, syndicated everywhere. It's not difficult. Syndication that's the beauty of what we have here. We've got the ability to be syndicated everywhere.
yeah,
So of
correct.
course you get a large swath of consumption, and and again, every show is different, but this show is not listened to on Spotify. I can tell you that right now. More than 50% of this audience and as a matter of fact, a lot of people actually come to our show and listen on the webpage, which blows me away.
That or in one of the Podcast 2.0 apps like
Right,
Fountain or some of
right.
those is
Yeah,
where we see a lot of connection with this show is on those
yeah.
alternative Podcasting 2.0 apps. And Sue Ann here posts a comment. That's one thing that's difficult still: podcast data and stats, especially if you are syndicated everywhere. Um, well, I mean, I think it's not as bad as probably you're maybe saying it is, but I think part of the challenge is that um, it's still not a strict standard either, right?
Right.
I think we're close to it. We're a lot closer than we were when we didn't have the IAB metrics standard. Um, People were all over the map on that one. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point though, is that as we look to the future, um, in and especially if you increasingly look at YouTube consumption as podcast consumption, then yeah, there's a completely different metric that's going on there. But anyway,
One thing I was going to do here, and something I should have loaded up, I'm loading my Umbral up. Thank you
hmm
to Tailscale to allow me to access this from. Yeah, my Umbral is now sitting in my. Okay, let's look. Let's see what we've got from Boost. Um, well, I'll go through some of these boosts here in a little bit, but nothing on today's show. Because probably not. Most people don't watch us on video on Podcasting 2.0. So
right.
I'll get the audio stream fixed up next show, folks.
Yeah, Todd, keep in mind that in your interface there of StreamYard, you can share a screen too
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah.
Right. So
Let's see here if I can. Of course, I guess I'm okay to move to. Well, the problem is I can't change tabs. Maybe I can drag this out. Let me do this.
mhm.
Put you over here. Present. How do I present? Share screen. Okay, which screen do I want to show? Okay. Oh,
Select
it's
a
making.
tab.
I'm
Right.
having to, give permissions here of. All right, there we go. Turn that on. Yes. Use my finger to give the password. No, I don't want to quit and reopen. That would be very bad with Rob right now.
So Tom Webster on this webinar that he's putting on, he's going to, and it's on June 12th. He's going to talk about listeners' perceptions of hearing the same ad multiple times within an episode. That can happen, especially if you have. I think if you're pulling from multiple ad buying platforms in like a waterfall type of situation, I
Oh,
think there is a possibility of duplicate ads that get
that's
inserted
bad.
on. Yeah.
Very bad.
So let's say an ad buyer buys an ad with, ad buying platform A and an ad buying platform B, targeting the same demographic or the same target type of show. They could funnel the same ad in multiple times into a podcast. And I think that may cause, an amplification of negative reactions.
Tom says in the YouTube chat over on my channel, he says, I'm listening to you now on my $8,000 tube amp setting in a liquid bath.
Oh,
I actually
yeah.
believe that. Tom is him and a couple of other of podcast aficionados are definitely, when we're sitting around, of course, sitting around the bar having
Right.
for me an alcoholic beverage, or for Tom a non-alcoholic beverage, there is
Right.
this they start talking about bands and albums and tracks and concerts, and to me it goes
Yeah.
shoo,
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely not but I believe it. But I do. Hey, Tom, maybe you'd be interested. I've got about 5,000 LPs in storage
You
from
do. The
from my
old
from my D
records? Yeah.
from my DJ days back in the in the 80s. 12-inch.
DJ days. Wow, we should talk about that, Todd.
Oh, yeah,
I
well,
didn't know you
that's a
had a
story.
DJ days.
Yeah, well, not a DJ. Well, yeah, I was DJing at a club in Guam.
Oh, you
So,
were? Oh,
yeah,
that's
when you actually had to hump your, uh your albums in the milk crates, so
Yeah. Well, that's not unusual, I don't think.
well, now they just bring their computer with a hard drive.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Once everything got digitized, but yeah, I've
Yeah.
got a bunch of records here too. Going
I
way back.
almost bought myself one of those Pioneer DJ mixing. They're very, very expensive. They're a couple $1,000s. I almost bought one a couple of years ago, but and then I slapped myself because I was like, dude, you don't even have time to do any of this other stuff. Why would you? It's just gonna sit there and collect dust.
Yeah, I saw that there's a webinar being put on. It's in the Podnews newsletter as an event that's coming up on June 13th, at about I believe it's like 10 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday, June 13th, is create an AI narrated podcast for your newsroom. So so
Oh,
so what this is being applied to is, if you have a like a newspaper, or you have a TV station or something like that, you can use AI to generate all your podcasts.
I know a podcaster that's generating an AI podcast
Right,
with AI.
right.
It's all
Yeah,
self-generated using his clone voice, and it
yeah. I think
sounds
we're gonna. Yeah, probably.
well.
I mean,
But it
does it
sounds
sound
like
okay?
I don't know.
I guess it depends on how good his or her voice is to begin with.
Yeah.
Also, right, and
So, Rob,
what's the quality, right?
I didn't mention it, but celebrated the big 6-0 a day
Oh,
or
well,
so ago.
congratulations. You've,
Yeah.
crossed the Rubicon.
To be
It's
honest
all
with you,
downhill from here, right, Todd?
50 was 40. I spent it in a hospital when I broke my back.
Mhm.
50 was okay. 60 was a
Yeah.
this realization that there's more miles behind me than in front of me, right? So,
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good way of looking at it, right.
because I don't think I'm gonna make it to 120, At 50, there's the chance you can make it to 100, right? So you're
Yeah,
like 50,
yeah, you're
you know
probably not gonna double that number, I think it's safe
no.
to say.
And, my grandparents lived to be, 98 and 99 respectively on my mom's side,
Really?
and
Wow,
yeah,
that's impressive.
late 90s, but, they had a little different lifestyle, the depression era, so it was meat and potatoes and not too much libations, so, you know,
Save
and
that
less
liver, huh?
stress, down on the farm.
Right, right. Well, if
So
they
for
were
me
outside exercising a lot, that was a healthy lifestyle
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason I was back in Seattle, was helping my dad. My dad's 89, and so he was
yeah.
moving out of his house into a senior living facility, and so he had a lot of stuff in his house, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna have
my
to go
my
out there
mom's
again at the end of the month. So,
my mom's in her
yeah.
early 80s, and she's, still spunky and, matter of fact,
Oh, my dad's doing good too.
she helped me
Yeah,
move, and she's, packing stuff up, carrying
that's
boxes,
awesome.
you know
That's awesome.
yeah, and, and be honest with you, you sit in a recliner, you're gonna die, so you have to be busy and, in doing something, and, we have a big thing against us here because we're both sitting in front of our computers a lot, so, yeah, one of the
Yeah,
first orders will be is when I get back, um, I will be bringing very difficulty bringing my standing desk back, to the house because I use
yeah,
my standing desk quite a bit. Yeah,
yeah.
this is gonna be a monumental change for me. I just,
I think so
I'm
too,
dreading it a
you're
little
gonna have
bit.
to be more like me.
Well, I ran the show out of a 10 by 10 bedroom for years, so
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's not
Yeah, you
like,
did. Yeah, it's not like you've never
actually
done it
a 10 by
before.
12,
Right.
yeah, so it's yeah. The only difference is I don't have a room.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, it's open, so you're gonna have probably some
Yeah.
echo problems, do you think?
Yeah, probably, but, one thing I considered too was but the problem is, before COVID, I could have found a studio apartment in my town for 600-700 bucks a month. But now, post-COVID, you can't find a rental in my town. It's you on a waiting list, and the cost is extraordinarily high, even for a little, the little town that I'm in. But again,
Yeah.
if I'm going to do more of this, more traveling, yeah, maybe then this is a godsend in disguise. I don't know. But one thing's for sure, I have a significant amount of much more money in my business account every month.
Yeah, because I can be paying for that office space, right?
Well, it's now no rent, no insurance, no electricity, no gas bill. I'm already paying that at my loft, so that was a
Right.
fixed cost anyway.
Totally.
So
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know what they're gonna do. It's kind of a weird situation because and it was my own fault because I was on month to month.
Mhm.
But that space had been empty for several years before I moved into it. And there's no one next to me. There's a weed shop was to the left of me, and then a whole big massive space that's empty next to me. And I'm just maybe their communication's been weird too because um I said, okay, I'm out. The keys have been turned over. I've turned off electricity. I've disconnected the gas. My insurance on the space has been terminated. Um, here's the information if you want to get the gas and electricity turned on for that space again. So either
Mhm.
they want to expand their weed shop into my location, which they're going to have fun doing because it used to be a dentist's office. So
Mhm.
it's wired for water, air, and gas.
Mm.
So they're going to essentially have to rip the whole space down to even use it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
very. And
it's gonna be a
and
change
if I
for
had
you. Yeah.
what it could have been, this could have been the play too. They said, "Okay, your lease is terminated. You've been month to month." Maybe expecting me to panic and come back and say, "Okay, how can we fix this?" And then say, "Well, we're going to raise your rent 50% and you can stay." So maybe they were using. They could have came to me and said, "Hey, we want to raise your rent. We know you're on a month to month." Uh, they could have been upfront with that, and
Yeah, because why would they give up a paying tenant unless they got a better deal from, let's say, the weed shop expanding into your space?
right, and I don't think they're doing that much business to expand. They're gonna have a hell of a time with that space. That's a very unique space,
Mhm. Yeah, it's long
from a
and thin,
construction.
right? It's not
Yeah,
that
long and
wide.
thin.
Right.
So, yeah, who knows? And I heard a rumor maybe a restaurant was going next door, and that has been dispelled. And again, maybe this was just a weird way for them trying to extort more rent, but I had
Yeah.
no it was Memorial Day weekend, no way to communicate with them.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
So,
So I got another topic
I'll
here
go
if you
ahead.
wanna
Go ahead.
talk about it. It's, this whole topic around co-listening. I know this topic has been bubbling around for the last couple of years around, some research coming out saying that increasingly, people are consuming podcasts, um, via connected TVs and doing it with multiple people at a time. And I guess that makes sense, as we think about people watching television, how they've always done it in the past, right? Where they sit around the living room and they watch TV together. Well, increasingly that appears to be um, what's happening increasingly with the video content, right? So there was some research that came out, and but also kind of to dovetail with this, it says while most podcasts are consumed via mobile phone, right? 69%. The Edison Share of Ear report reported that 11% of podcast time is spent on smart speakers, and that's surprising,
No.
and 6% via connected TVs, both in-room devices. 17% of podcast time spent occurred in the car, while others could be listening along as well. So, multiple
Oh, this
people
is
sit
the
in a car.
co-listening fact. Oh, I see.
Right, right. It's a co-listening thing. So a podcast is playing and multiple people can hear it. And that also is kind of taking us down this path. Well, maybe the consumption, I think the assumption has been that podcast consumption has been like a play to one person type of a medium, right? In the
Mm.
headphones or whatever. But maybe increasingly we're seeing groups of people consuming the same content. So it could be one other person, it could be 2 people or 3 people or something like that consuming it. So, I thought it was
Well,
interesting
I
trend
wonder if
line.
that's driven from way people watch YouTube together.
Well, and
Uh,
yeah, and I guess it depends on how you define what a podcast
but
is, really, it takes us back to
but
that.
again, for me, podcasting, my air con just dripped on me. Um, it's just like I'm feeling water on my forehead. What the hell? Um, no birds can pee on me because there's a roof above me. Um,
Thank goodness for small
yeah,
favors, Todd.
yes, thank goodness. You could have got a splat, right? Um, I don't know. Podcast listening to me is just still this personal thing,
Yeah.
you know. Eric says, "What about a mobile podcast video production vehicle?" That's more than one people have suggested that.
Yeah, I think you've done that for a while. I think you did that in Hawaii, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a mobile podcast when I was still in the Navy. I was traveling with
Yeah.
a rig. What did I travel with this time? I traveled with a boom arm, an SMB7,
Yep.
a Rodecaster Duo, and my laptop. And yeah, so here
Sounds
we
like that
are.
would work. Right.
Yeah, it's working, right?
Yeah.
So double fingers to my previous landlord.
So this same research that I was quoting, the Edison Shervier said that says among consumption of podcasts with in this case with children, it says that 36% say they have listened to a podcast with their child.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's another example of co-listening going on. And
my
then
kids
12
were force fed podcasts for years.
right, right. They didn't have a choice, right? Even though they
No, they
probably
didn't.
objected because I want to play my
I controlled the
music.
Bluetooth.
Right,
Yeah, until
right.
until they got their own smartphones and could listen to something else, yeah.
Yeah. So it says 12% say they frequently listen to podcasts with their children. I guess it depends on the age, right? I would think it doesn't really talk about the age of these children, but I would imagine that parents want to hear what the kids are consuming, right?
Uh,
So if I was
you know,
a parent,
my
I'd be interested.
my
Yeah,
rule was give me your phone, and they had to give me your phone on a moment's notice. I could just give me your phone, and they couldn't
right.
touch anything except unlock it, and then I would be able to go through. So that's how I did audits to make sure, the boys weren't, I'm sure, boys being boys, they were probably covering their tracks immediately if they were going to a porn site. But I was making sure that, you know, chats and apps and who they're talking to and, do a little bit of self auditing on that on a regular basis. But
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
I, so I don't know how many parents actually take their kids' phones away from them on demand. You know,
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah.
I was big on that.
You know,
Hey, Rob, you remember ICQ?
I do. Yeah. It
Did you
used to be
know
part of America Online, I believe.
2233255 was my ICQ number? I don't know why I remember that.
Yeah, I think
I guess
they just shut it down from what I
yeah, they just
remember
pulled the
hearing.
plug. I didn't know it was still
I
even in
didn't know I
operation.
didn't have a that platform has been around a long time, if
That's
that's the case.
amazing,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's like Skype too. I mean, I think both those platforms were back in that era. Um, but
Well, Skype's
yeah,
still a
yeah, Skype's uh, yeah. I mean, actually, I think Microsoft built in ChatGPT into it. It's called
or yeah,
it's
whatever
called
they're
Copilot
Copilot.
now.
Yeah.
Right. Into it. So you can do a AI query and generate images and results in Skype.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit of an odd combo, but I do know that Microsoft wanted to add all the AI to all their software, and it's like, okay, we'll see how that plays out. But
Well, don't want to keep reharping on this, but if you're a listener of the show, this show, or even my tech show, give me some suggestions. What should I do? What should we do that would be cool and unique? If you think about an open floor plan and how to implement a new studio. By the way, Rob, Rick says I still pay for a Skype number. I do too. I've got two because of
Right.
GNC Pod 1, GNC Pod 2. But, when I travel overseas, I use Google Voice to
Yeah.
make any calls back to States. And then I buy a eSIM
Mhm.
for my phone for data to try to keep the calls down. And then I call forward my digital line to my Google Voice number. So
Yeah.
that's one
Yeah,
of
that
the
makes
things I
sense.
do, to try to keep, instead of having to pay $100 a month on an international plan. But if you're on T-Mobile, T-Mobile is the best phone to travel with internationally
Yeah. We,
because you do nothing.
yeah, I mean, for years, we used Skype to do this show.
Yeah.
It's only been recently that we've moved to other platforms like Zoom and now StreamYard.
Yeah.
So it's, for us, Skype was the amazing tool of its time,
Yeah,
if you
maybe StreamYard's gonna have more of a presence in my future. The TriCaster's in a box, but I can't do the podcast awards with StreamYard. There's no way I can sequence that with StreamYard.
really, why do you
'Cause
think that's
I have all the acceptance videos to play.
well,
I
you
just
can do
don't
that
know.
in
Yeah, but
StreamYard.
is it smooth? Can I do that without yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you saw what I did with the video I played just now, but,
Yeah, but you have to go to share and then, is it clean? Does the switch between I don't know. We'll figure it out.
well, don't you do like a little voiceover between videos too?
Well, in
Um,
all honesty, I pre-record the awards.
oh, yeah, right,
So in that
right.
instance, I could piece
Oh, so
something
you're just
together.
playing back a full-length video is what you're doing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Because it's just
okay,
too hard. There's too many moving pieces. I usually can
right,
record it in one take,
right.
but I just would not wanna risk that because 'cause I'm pushing switching levers and playing videos and
Yeah, and I'm gonna be getting back to working on the Podcast Hall of Fame here before too much longer. That's coming up
oh, yeah.
again here in 6 months, so the time ticker is counting down on that. So yeah,
How many
so
how many we gonna do?
probably the same as we did last time.
Be nice if
But
we could add a couple more.
well, I would like that. It's gonna make the event longer, but that's probably okay. I mean, I'm okay with making it instead of 8, maybe 10 or something.
And then just
Oh,
tighten up the, speech time. Most folks don't use all their time anyway.
that's true. That's true. So we shall see, and it's gonna be interesting to see what happens at Podcast Movement, coming up
Oh,
here in
yeah.
August. What kind of turnout they're gonna get in Washington, DC. It's gonna be
Well, I'm gonna
interesting.
tell you, podcast movement needs to up their game.
Yep.
I will say
I
one thing about the podcast show. There's no incentive for people to stop at the booth. They haven't got that down yet.
no
The venue
incentive
is
to stop at the booth like a contest, kinda like what Podfest
yeah,
does?
right, right. There's, and people were, um it's a great venue the way it's outlined, but there is a yeah. If we go when we go back next year, we will incentivize people to come to the booth. I'll just put it that way.
So, Rick, Savoya has a good comment here too. it's probably something for you to consider, Todd, is combining OBS with StreamYard,
Oh, really?
because OBS is free software that can be
Yeah, I
installed
know about
on your
OBS.
computer,
Yeah.
and you can play all those videos right through OBS, and it's just
Oh, it's
connects
a and
directly to
it's a
StreamYard.
chant. Oh, interesting.
Yep. So StreamYard just becomes equivalent to like a Wowza or a Restream
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like that
yeah.
of sorts. But it has that kind of audience engagement layer too. But but the OBS can be the engine that actually plays the videos,
That's interesting. And also the stills,
and it's
potentially.
free. It's
Yeah, they
even a
could
better
make this
deal because it's free.
they could make this product, a lot better by adding some of that function, be able to play videos and, be able to have a true switching function. You have some control there, but
Yeah, I
it's
have to
not
upload it to the brand area of the interface. So it's
uh,
like preloaded, and then I just go in and I click play, 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 play,
uh,
play.
um,
Is kind of how it would work. Now, granted, there could be a little bit of a delay in its starting from the point that you
oh,
click
yeah,
it,
yeah,
where if
yeah,
you're using OBS, it's probably because it's more local in the client. It'll
yeah.
probably be a quicker response.
Well, I've got 60 days to get something
Yeah,
done once I get back, and to be honest with you, I'll be pretty laser focused on that anyway, so
right. Okay.
but, my back still hurts from, you know how many Rob, you should have seen the amount of wiring that came out. I had built the first stage of it, then I added more stuff and had, like, 5 layers. I do not
Yeah,
ever I don't ever need to buy a LAN cable, a video cable.
you're all stocked up.
You matter of fact, at some point, there's gonna have to be a garage sale,
Right.
or something put on Marketplace because holy I probably took 150 pounds of cables out of that building because I had the security system,
Well, I don't think a lot of people
32
realize what you built there, but it was basically
no,
had 3 studio bays
3
right next to each
studio
other,
bays.
right?
Yeah. Even though
With a
the
different
other 2
purpose in mind for each one of them. Right.
monitors, I've got 5 big screen TV monitors, I've got computer monitors, probably a dozen,
Yeah.
5, 6 Mac Minis. It's ridiculous.
So, also, most people don't know what a TriCaster is either.
No.
So, what do you think you're gonna do with that studio in a box? Actually, don't you have 2 of them? So you have the full-size one with the big keyboard, and then you've got that portable one, right?
Technically, I have 3
You have
because
3?
when I
I only knew of 2. So,
well,
right.
I have the portable one, and that one's pretty much at this point, yeah, maybe. But when I upgraded to the TC1 from the 865,
Yeah.
they basically let me keep the 865, but it no longer got any support or updates, so it's stuck at a version. Um,
Wow.
so so I have the 865. Matter of fact, anybody wants a TriCaster 865, let me know. I'll make you a deal. Still operational, still great box.
865 is the number. Let's see here if we
Yeah,
can find one here that I can bring up on the screen. Okay, here it is. 865.
yeah,
Let's see if I can pull it up and people can see what we're talking about here. It's actually available, looks like on eBay. You can get it there. Let's see
yeah. What?
here.
And I have the computer and the control panel or control board.
Okay, so here it is
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. That's about
So you
right. About 5 grand will get her done.
yeah,
Yeah,
so you can
yeah,
kind of see it's like a studio in a box basically. It
yeah,
has
yeah,
this output that displays into a monitor, right?
yeah. And you
And
can put
then
8 cameras on it. Yeah.
right.
And it supports NDI too, so it has NDI support.
So it has this really cool keyboard too.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a
see,
it's a
that's the
switching
that's
keyboard.
yeah, that which makes it easy to do a full production, see?
Right.
'Cause you just hammer play, you can crop the video links and everything. It's a great box. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
it's like a
unit
stream deck of sorts. I mean, if you wanna
yeah,
draw an analogy to what you're
it's
seeing here on the screen.
it's got a big 4-bay hard drive system in it. It's a monster
Yep.
box. It's like a 4U box that comes with it. The unit that I have right now is a TC1.
Yeah,
That's
it
the box
doesn't
I'm using now.
doesn't show the actual CPU
Doesn't
unit,
show you
though, in this
Yeah, it doesn't
picture,
show you the computer, no.
right?
Eh yeah, if you
So
click above that 1899, I think it shows a 865 server. So click up where it says New Tech TriCaster TCX 865.
865.
Yeah, look up, straight up on that eBay listing. People who viewed this item also viewed, and see the 39.99 one? There it is, that one.
This one.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
essentially the same box, 860, 865.
Okay, well, that's what the actual box looks like that runs I think it runs Windows, doesn't it?
Yeah, it runs Windows. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one's
So
stuck on Windows 7. The TC1 that I'm on is on, I think, Windows 10.
oh, okay.
So,
Yeah,
that's in the day, that was 35 grand.
yeah, and it looks like that they're selling it for about 3,900 now.
Yeah, which, it's still a probably pretty great deal.
So, could you possibly use that with your new studio,
Well,
or
I'm just
at home?
I've got a TC1, so the 865 was never deployed in the new studio. It was in a box the entire time.
Ah,
So
okay. Yeah,
so
like the studio in a box, that
yeah,
small unit that
but the
that
one
that you have.
the one I've been running all these years is called a TC1.
Got
So,
it.
yeah, and
That's
it's
the big
basically
one,
it's a
right?
2U, it's a much smaller computer.
Oh, it's a
Um,
smaller computer.
yeah, but it's got a smaller control board.
Mhm.
So, and it's NDI capable too.
Yeah, we've been totally
Geeked out here.
geeking out on studio software tonight, haven't
And
we?
you know what? Here's the crazy part. Yeah, with free OBS and StreamYard, you can probably do everything that thing does. That's why I said when the
Yeah.
TC1 died, I was never going to buy another TriCaster. I was going to go to some other solution.
So, yeah, chances are you're probably gonna wanna sell them all and just kind of move
But
towards more of a software solution.
yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Again, for me, muscle memory's been fun because you have to you got to teach an old dog new tricks. So,
Does
and it's what they
those TriCasters, do they support Windows updates, or is it basically
no,
locked at like
it's a locked. Yeah, it's a
like
locked
it
operating system.
on Windows 10 or something like that? Is that what they're
Yeah.
pretty much locked at?
Yeah, when they deliver an operating system that does not get upgraded. Yeah, it's just kinda like getting a Mac, but you don't get Windows updates. It's a fixed set of hardware.
Right.
So,
Okay.
well, we
Yeah.
made it to the end.
We did just in the nick of time. 90
Yes.
minutes. That's always
And
our
Rob,
goal.
I hit the audio record a little late here, so please send me both the
Oh,
audio
yeah.
and video for
Yeah, I
these,
will.
and we'll get these up.
All right.
But,
Well,
back in the saddle here. We'll be back, normal scheduled time, I guess. I'm good. Are you good for next week?
yeah, I think we're
Okay.
good for this same time. I'm gonna be gone the entire last week of June. I'll be
Well,
back
that
in
actually
Seattle.
works because I'm, gonna be moving, yeah, that actually works good because I'm gonna be, I've gotta go to Cebu, uh, that week as well for business. So, yeah,
Okay.
so the last week of June, no show on the 26th works out perfect for me.
Okay. Fantastic, Todd.
All right,
All right.
everyone,
All right.
thanks.
Well, good luck
Todd?
back there. Yeah.
Yeah, Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter. Send your donations too. We can, this was not a inexpensive. Of course, I'm talking about saving money, but yeah, send your donations. It's help the Todd Studio Recovery Fund.
Yeah, and to see all of our old episodes, just go to newmediashow.com. It's a great place to get caught up on the how many years now, Todd? 12, 13 years we've been doing this?
I think longer.
It's
Uh,
longer than that.
yeah, I had the number, but it's been a while.
and I can be found on X as well at Rob Greenlee. And if you want to send me an email, rob.greenlee@gmail.com. It's a great place to find me. But I'm on all the social platforms, and I'm still doing my podcast tips show every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, I guess. So tomorrow night. So that'll be interesting.
And I'll be back. I'll be back with my back in the saddle with Geek News Central. I sent I did a moping, sad, I got screwed episode on for my Monday show because I just didn't have the energy to do the regular show. Plus, it was my birthday, so
Yes, that's true. You did have your birthday. Yeah.
anyway.
I hope you
All right.
had fun. So yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a hangover, not bad.
Yeah, if you wanted to check out, I know we mentioned the Hall of Fame, but if you wanted to go check out the Hall of Fame, what we were talking about, this is the website address that you can see all the past inductees and what's going on with that. So that's the address, podcasthof.com. So
And Podcast Awards nominations open in 25 days, July 1st.
oh, that's coming up quick. And then the actual awards are given in September on September 30th, right?
Yeah, that's why the clock will be ticking when I get home. So,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thank you for all the comments. It was great to have this live and be able to pull up the comments on the screen, and it's always fun to do that. So we'll be back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So come back and check us out again. But in the meantime, this is an audio and video podcast, so you can get it in Apple. You can get both the video and audio. Take your pick. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.